Hey there, this is Kamal, and in this video I want to carry on with what we were learning in the previous video about Angular. So let's get started. Alright, so in the previous video we have added our block design to our Angular application, and also we have seen how we can actually create a database for our posts, and also we've created a model, add some constraints on that database as well. So in this video we'll be seeing how we can retrieve that data and showcase that data to the user. So before doing that, let me actually start my server once again. So I'll open my terminal and I'll type in ngFor. Okay, so now that it's compiled, we can actually go to our browser and we can go to localhost 4200. Okay, so this is what we have. Right, so now as you can see here, if you scroll down, we have the post section. So in that we have the dummy content. So now what we have to do is that we have to actually replace this with our content from the mock-post. So in order to actually do that, let's first actually, create components. Okay, so before doing that, let's actually take care of something. So if you can observe here, you can see that we have a post section inside of our home page. Similarly, if you go to the blog page as well, we have another post layout, right? So the only difference between these two things is the layout structure. Apart from that, both of these are same because you have an image, a title, a description, and a button. Similarly, if you go to blog section as well, you have an image, title, content, and a button, right? So the only difference is that the layout is different. Like here you have only 2 posts. Here you have 4 posts. So what we can do is that instead of typing it out 2 times, we can actually create a component for this, and we can replace that with these 2 things. Okay, so for that, what I'll be doing is that I'll go to my VS Code, and in that let's create a new terminal instance. In that, let's create a new component. So it's going to be, so I'll be creating a post component and I'll place it inside my components folder. So let's click on enter and that should be generated. Okay, so my post component is done. So now what I'll do is I'll close out this terminal and I'll go to my home section. So that is my home HTML, and that, let's minimize this. So we have a row. Inside that row, we have 4 columns. So these are the 4 posts that we are representing in this page. So what I'll do now is that I'll remove this from here. We don't require these 3 columns, and I'll copy or cut this out from here. And then what I'll do is that I'll go to my post component, and in that let's go to the HTML and let's paste the data here. Now I'll call that post component from inside my home page. Okay, so now that is done, let's save that and let's go to the browser, and you'll not see much change. You only have 1 card here though, because we only have 1 instance of that. So now what we'll be doing is that we'll be fetching the data and replacing this with our own data. So let's go to our post ts file. So let's close out the home for now. Let's go to the component.ts, and in that let's actually retrieve the data from our database, and in this case our database is going to be the mock-post. So let's retrieve the data from this. So we have the data here, right, and it's already exported. If I call this file, it should actually give me this data as the return value. So what I'll do now is I'll go to my post component.ts, and that let's actually import the file that we want to call. So I'll be importing the post. So we have the post, right? So I'll be importing that from, let's actually change this to capital P instead of small p. Okay, so from, it's going to be inside of the root directory. So it's going to be 2 directories above, and it's going to be the mock-post. So we were actually present inside our post folder. So I used .. to go out of my post folder, and we were inside the components folder. Then I used .. once again to go out of the components folder. Then we'll be present inside the app directory. Then that we are connecting to the mock-post, right? So that is a representation that I've given here. Now once that is done, I actually have my post inside this post variable. So what I'll do is that I'll assign that to another variable instance, and it's going to be post is equal to capital post. If I save that, then this data should be actually assigned to this particular variable. Let me actually check if it's working or not. So I'll go to my ng on init and I'll type in console.log, and that let's type in the post variable. Okay, so it's going to be this .post, not just post. So this ng on init is a lifecycle method, and you don't need to worry about what's happening here, but you just need to know that this will be executed automatically. Okay, so let me save that. Let's go to browser and let's open the console, and let's go to the console section. In that, if I zoom in, as you can see, we have an array. If I maximize this, you'll see that we actually have the data, and it's in the form of an array of objects, right? So we actually have the data present inside the post variable that is being retrieved from the mock-post. Now what we have to do is that we actually have to use this post variable and showcase that data in the front end. Okay, so we have the HTML page, right? So what I'll be doing now is that I'll actually take this and actually use a for loop, because we actually have not a single object, instead multiple objects, right? So we have to loop through that and print that data. So what I'll be doing is that actually I'll be creating a for loop for this. So let me add a for loop here, and the way that we actually add for loops inside of Angular is by using a directive. So there's a particular syntax that you have to follow in order to actually use if-else conditions or for loops or anything like that. So in this case, since I want to use the for loop, the syntax is going to be star ng capital for is equal to, then that you have to type in the condition. So it's going to be let post of post. So what I'm doing essentially is that I'm taking the post from the post variable. So this post is equivalent to this post that we have here. So I'm taking every object from this post variable and assigning it to a variable called as post. Now I have the data inside of the post. So let's say I want to access the title. So what I can do is that I can type that out here. So I can type it as, let's say, post.title. If I save that, if I go to the browser, you'll see that we have the post title, right? So, and also, as you can see, the data is being printed for all the values as well, right? That means that it's iterating through all the objects and it's actually printing the data. Similarly, you can actually type in the description as well from this. So it's going to be post.content. Let's save that, and you're going to have the content as well, right? So in this way, you can actually retrieve the data and showcase that here. So now what I'll be doing is that instead of actually typing out the data directly here, I'll actually create another component to actually store the individual post. Okay, so we have a post component which is showcasing multiple posts, right? So I'll be creating another component which only has just a single post. I'm trying to create that component just to explain a few things for you. It's not mandatory for you to create that, but it's best practice to do so. So I'll open my terminal once again. I'll create a new component, and this time it's going to be post. So that's going to be our single post. So now that is done, what I'll do is that I'll close off my terminal and let's go to this. And as you can see here, we have the post folder as well. So now what I'll do is that instead of actually placing this here, I'll actually remove this from here. So I'll remove this ngFor and I'll copy this division from here or cut it out from here. I'll go to my post, that is the HTML part, and I'll place it here. Now I'll call this post from my post component. So it's going to be app-post. So now we actually have the post component, right? So, but if I save that, you're not going to see any data. That is because we are not actually passing the data to this, because right now, as you can see, we are actually trying to print the post title and the post content, but there is no for loop here, or there's no post variable. So what we actually have to do is that we actually have to loop through the data here in this, and we have to send that individual post data to this post component, right? So for that, what I'll do is I'll do the exact same thing here as well. I'll create a for loop. So I have my object present inside the post variable. Now what I have to do is that I have to send this post data to the app-post, that is this particular HTML, right? So for that, there is actually a particular syntax that you have to follow. So what I'll be doing is that I'll type in, let's say, post is equal to post. So it's going to be post is equal to post, or let me actually change this to post 1. That should be better. So right now we have an error because we actually don't have this variable anywhere present inside our code. So now what I'll do is that actually I'm taking this post and sending that data to the app-post through a variable called as post1. Okay, now I have to accept that data in the post component as well. So let's go to my post component. I'll close out the HTML for now. I'll go to my post component.ts. In that we have to actually accept this input that is being sent to us, right? So it's going to be an input, right? So there's a declarator that you have to use for this called as input. So you can type that out and that should be imported. So as you can see here, it is being imported. Then it's going to be equivalent to post1. Okay, and it's going to be of type any, because you have to use the type script in some cases. So in this case, you have to actually use a TypeScript defining that this can be of any type. That means that this particular post1 variable can have any kind of data type, right? So that means whatever data is being assigned to this, it can be either number, string, boolean, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So essentially what's happening here is that the control flow is something like this. we're actually retrieving the data from the post component.ts, that is this, and assigning it to a variable called as post. Then we're actually going to the HTML part of this and looping through that and assigning it to a variable called as post. So now we have access to individual object inside of the post variable. Then I'm sending that to the app-post by using this particular syntax. Okay, so what I'm doing is that I'm taking this post data that we had got here and assigning it to a variable called as post1. So as you can see, I have given it as post1, and here as well inside my post component I've given it as post1. So this has to be the same thing that you gave here. If you give something like test in this case, then you have to type it as test here. So that means we are actually sending the data that is post to this app-post through this particular variable. If I console log this, you should actually see the data. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's keep it as it is, and we'll directly change the code, because we actually have the HTML, right? So if I go to my HTML part of this, you'll see that we have the post data, but since it is showing an error, that is because we don't have the post. Instead we have post1. Let me type it as post1. If I actually save this now, you should actually see the data back once again. As you can see here, we actually have the data. So the control flow is going from the post component to the HTML part of that, then from the HTML to the TS file of the post component once again, then from that to the post component.html, right? So we're retrieving the data. So we are retrieving the data inside the post component, which is going to be acting as a parent component. In that, we are assigning it to a variable as post, then sending that to the app-post, which is a single post component, through this particular syntax by assigning it to a variable called as post1. And we are looping through that as well. So this is equivalent to us writing app-post 3 times. So instead of writing it as 3 times, we are using the loop. So that is being sent to this. Then that is being taken as an input. So this is outputting that data, and this is actually accepting that data, right? So the parent component is sending the data to the child component, that is post. So in this, we are accepting that input, that is, and being assigning it to a variable called as post1, and we are giving it as any, because this post1 can be of any data type. Okay, so if you type it like this, there will not be any complications. Then we are using that and showcasing that inside the post component HTML. Okay, and for that we are using the post1. So what I'll be doing now is that we actually have the data. So this is something that can actually be called from anywhere that we want. Okay, so that means if I go to my home page, so let's close off this. So as you can see, we are actually calling the app-post from the home page. That's why this post component is being outputted in this case. Similarly, if I go to my blog page as well, like let's go here, let's go to the HTML page. If I actually remove the cards from here, so we actually have the cards inside the blog section as well, right? So let me minimize these cards. So we have, I think, around 4. Okay, so let's remove this, and instead let's actually call the app-post here as well. If I do that, if I go to my browser, so let's actually indent this correctly. Let's save that and go to the browser, and let's go to the blog section. As you can see here, we actually have the data here as well, right? So that means we can actually call that post component from anywhere inside of our project structure, right? That's why these components are reusable, right? We just have to write the logic once and we can reuse them anywhere we want. Now the thing is that, as you can see, the layout is not correct, because right now they are one below the other. We wanted one beside the other. So if I open the developer tools and let's go to the inspector, let's close off everything from here. Okay, let's maximize this a bit. Okay, now if I hover over this, you'll see that we have the app-post. So the problem with Bootstrap grid is that you have to actually have a division with row class, and below that whatever divisions that you have should have the column class. Okay, so it should be immediate. In this case, you're seeing that we actually have the row here and we actually have the column inside of the app-post. So we have to change that. So for that, what we'll be doing is that we'll be adding the class row for the app-post. Okay, so let's go to my home page for now, and in here what I'll do is that I'll remove the row from here. Okay, I'll remove the row. Let's also remove the division. We don't require that anymore. Now I'll type the class row directly to this post component. So we can add in classes similar to how you add classes to a normal division as well. So I'll save that, and you'll see that we actually have the post with the class of row. Now what we have to do is that we have to actually add the column class to the app-post. So if I go to my post component, you'll see that in the post component, we actually have the column class. But the thing is that, there's a problem here, and that is we are giving the column 12, which is, default. But the thing is that this column LG3 is going to change, right? So for the home page, it's going to be column LG3, but for the blog page, it's going to be column LG6. So for now, let's actually remove this from here completely. Let's remove this as well completely. We don't require that. Let's indent that, and let's save that. Now what I'll do is that I'll go to my post component and let's add the class here. Okay, so let's add the class column -12 and column LG3. Let's only add these two classes for now. If I save that, everything is going to be aligned correctly. But this has to change, because if I minimize this, you can see that we have the row class for the app-post, and for the individual post we have the column. But if I go to my blog page, you'll see that it's not working, right? So we actually need to have only two columns, or two components here. We actually need to have only two columns here. So we have to change this to 6 when it comes to blog page. So that means we actually have to make this class dynamic. And the way that we can do that is by using the same principle that we had followed here. Okay. So what I'll be doing is that I'll remove this from here completely. Then instead of actually, typing it out here, hard-coded here, what I'll be doing is that I'll be sending that data from the home component. Okay. So I'll create a variable here. Let's say it's going to be column class, and I'll give in a value, let's say column LG3, because for the, home page, we require it to be column LG3. So I'll assign it to a variable called as column class. Then I'll go to my post component. So in this, we have to go to the, TS file, because we actually have to, take the input. So similar to how we had, the input for the individual post, here as well, we are sending the data, that is a column class, to the post component where we are actually using the column, right? So let me go to the TS file of that. In that, let's accept the input. Then it's going to be column class :string, and let's close it off. So we actually have this, or let's actually give it as any. That should work. Okay, so now what we're doing is that we are sending the column class attribute from here to the post component, and that is being added into the column class. Now we can use this inside my post component. So what I'll do is that I'll output that here directly. If I save that, that should actually print out this data. So let me go. Okay, I think the syntax is something like this. Previously we had some errors, right? So if you're sending strings, I think you have to follow this particular syntax. So I'm trying to send the string, right? So I have to follow this syntax. Now let's save that. Let's go to the browser and let's go to the home page. As you can see here, we actually have this in a single line. Now what I'll be doing is that I'll copy this and I'll go to my blog page, right? So here as well, we'll calling that, right? So let me remove the row from here. It's going to be a row, and we have to send a particular data. It's going to be column class, and in this case, it's going to be column LG6. If I save that, if I go to my blog page now, you'll see that we have 2 posts in the blog section, and we have 4 posts inside my home page. That means we are able to actually send the data, and we can actually differentiate that based on the page that is calling that particular component. Like in this case, I'm calling the app-post component, and I'm actually sending the data called as column class, giving it a value of column LG3 that is being accepted and being printed here. Similarly, I'm calling the same component through the blog page as well, but right now I'm giving it a column class of LG6. Then that will be outputted here. So based on the page that is calling the component, we can change the data that is being sent to it. So in this case, the variable is changing based on the component that is calling this. So in this way, you can make any property that you want dynamic, and you can add some more functionality to this. So that is one way of actually outputting the data and showcasing the data to the user. So in the next video, we'll see how we can actually make some more operations to this, and we'll be covering the delete operation as well, because we are actually done with the retrieval. So in the next video, we'll be seeing how we can add in the delete option to this. Okay. Alright, so before closing this off, I just wanted to say that this video was made in collaboration with packetcode. So packetcode is a training and placement company located in Hyderabad, and these videos were specifically made for the job guarantee training program that they have going on right now, and that is the full stack Java developer program. So apart from these free video lectures, they also have some premium content as well, like lecture notes, practice and test papers for you to get better at your core concepts. And they also have offline as well as online classes for this program. And they also conduct multiple demo sessions as well. So you can attend any of these demo sessions and understand the things they are teaching as well as their training approach firsthand. So if you're interested, I've provided the website link in the description down below. You can go there and check them out. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you have liked what you've seen till now. If you did, then please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.